Hello, grade 6 students, and welcome to the Social Studies class. Today we're going to talk about hunters and gatherers. So let's get started. So our lessons objectives today is to identify the locations where early people were living during the later years of the Ice Age and to describe the ways in which the early people adapted to a variety of environments. So in our lesson today, we're going to unlock some vocabulary words and then talk in general about the early people and then talk in details in each continent, how did they live. So the first vocabulary word we have is nomad, and by nomads we mean a people who doesn't settle down and don't have home and they keep moving from one place to another, and we call them as wanderers. Now we have society, and by society we mean a group of people who live together and work together and they follow some rules and traditions. Now next we have role, and by role we mean responsibility. Culture, and by culture we mean ways of life shared by members of a group. About 12,000 years ago, the world grew warmer and the water level rose. People began to migrate to different regions, and the communities of hunters and gatherers began to develop more complex ways of life. As Earth's climate changed, early Africans began to migrate across the continents, and they lived in new environments and they learned how to use different resources and tools. So, as the Earth's climate changed, the desert in northern Africa became more livable. The Sahara, which is today is a huge desert, once before received enough rain for grasses and other plants to grow. So that's why some early Africans began to migrate across regions. Some of them they stayed and they learned how to find water, food, and shelter, while others keep moving in order to search for food. Some of these people settled down beside the Nile River in northern Africa, while others moved to Nelson's Bay Cave, where they start to develop new tools like the bow and arrow in order to um, hunt the animals more precisely. So now please, I want you to stop the video here and read this page which is taken from your social studies book to know more about the early people who lived in Africa. So at the end of the last ice age, early Europeans adapted to the forest environment. They developed new tools and ways of living and they became less nomadic. Europe's landscape changed dramatically from plains to forests. In the past, early Europeans had hunted on a wide open plains, and as a part of their adapting to their new environment, they learned to make tools that could do special jobs. For example, the people who lived beside the Baltic Sea came up with new tools for catching fish. They used the fishing spears, harpoons, nets, traps, and they used the spears from stones and bone. Also, early Europeans improved their hunting skills. So they used, as the other early people, they used the bones and the arrow, and they start to learn how to plant. And since the food became so plentiful, the population increased. And since the population increased and it grew, early Europeans began to move less and start to settle down. So now please pause this video and read more in details to know more about the early European. About 14,000 years ago, people began populating Asia and southwestern Pacific Islands, and they start to stay longer in areas that had plenty food. Now please pause this video here and read these pages that's taken from your social studies book in order to know about the early people who lived in Asia and the Pacific. This is all for today. Thank you so much, and we will continue our lesson in next session.